I get this question a lot, and people ask, like, how do you blindly trust your government so much? What is it in Estonians that you trust? And I would say that we don't. We're really skeptical people, and I think that Estonians do not trust their government just blindly. But it is also, again, the responsibility of the government to show me that it can be trusted. We were under Soviet power for such a long time. We managed to regain independence, to become a republic. We have no desire in going back to this system. So we decided that we will adopt Western values, that we will be a democratic republic, that we will value a person's right and to be an independent citizen, right? Also legislating, so we were GDPR compliant before GDPR was even thought about. Right. So from the very beginning, we set in the legislation that the data belongs to the citizen, not to the government official, not to the database that is being held, but respective citizen owns their own data. So if I own something, I have the right to know how this data is being used. So these are the type of tools that the government provides me, like data tracker, where I can make queries, where I can see the different queries done to ask my data and for what reason. So these are the type of technological tools that you can give. When was the last time that you went to a hospital and said, well, I would like to be taken to the archive room because I would like to know how my data is being used, right? It's more complicated with the analog, but of course Estonia being pioneer in blockchain technology as well, that serves as a layer of verification. Yep. We choose truth over trust.
Erika, it's great to meet you. Thank you so much for taking time to speak to us.
Thank you for the invite. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so let's just start the conversation telling us a little bit about you. We'd like to know who you are and what you do.
I'm Erika. I work as a digital transformation advisor here in the E-Estonia Briefing Center. We are a government organization. We are the holders of E-Estonia brand. Very happy to share the experience, how Estonia became to be the very digitally advanced country. Oftentimes it's mistaken because of our name that perhaps E-Estonia is being built in the center. We're not quite so, because this is a collaboration between a very wide range of stakeholders, with public and private stakeholders. So we are just competence center where we talk about the different steps Estonia has taken, how we have slowly developed. I'm in a very fortunate role of, yes, representing Estonia, but also giving my citizen perspective, because at the end of the day, I'm the consumer of this digital Estonia. So, right. So to also talk of my experience, how is it to live in a advanced digital society?
Right. Okay. So let's start by just defining what is the aim of E-Estonia.
If you think about E-Estonia as a whole, so there's no digital and analog Estonia. There's only just one Estonia where 99% of the public services are available in an online format.
Right.
So that was for us a key decision, a pragmatic decision back in the 90s, where we saw that, okay, we have to rebuild our state. We want it to be very modern, forward-driven country. We want it to be a nice Nordic country with Western values, and very little resources. So we needed to act smart, and this is how the political decision was made. Like, yes, we are going to offer a range of public services, but alternatively also in an online format, so that it would be more convenient and easier to develop or to bring to people all over Estonia, even in the most remote areas.
Right.
So whole idea of this E-Estonia concept is to reduce bureaucracy, reduce red tape, and to be a convenient state for the citizen perspective.
Right. Okay, so then the trigger factor here was basically in the 90s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, you had the opportunity to rebuild, and you thought, well, if we're going to rebuild, let's rebuild on the platform of the future, right?
Exactly. We did not have a book of rules how to build a digital society. No one had ever done it this scale before, right? So we approached it as good Estonians do, with pragmatism, with just let's try it out. Mm-hmm. Let's start building our country as a startup, and we will see what happens. And that proved to be a pretty successful story in the end.
All right, and can you tell us a little bit more about the scope of E-Estonia? You say 99% of public services. What's covered within that scope, and what's maybe not within the scope?
There are two services that are not digitalized yet, and that is marriage and divorce. However, these are in the government pipeline right now to be digitalized as well. So we are moving towards, thanks to the already wide network of digital services, we are building like a second layer of services that would be live event-based and proactive services. So that the communication for the citizen with the state would be even more seamless. Less requirements for the communication points, a lot of automatization, and simply just using already all of the digital data that is available to make predictions and suggestions to improve citizens' lives. And one of the first services to be digitalized was declaring taxes. Smart decision, because if you think of where you start your digital journey, then, well, pick the low-hanging fruit first, right? Yeah. Something that is easy and, well, relatively cheap for the government to digitalize. And at the same time with the biggest impact for the person, because yes, we're talking about digital transformation, cool technologies, electronic identity, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, blockchain. These are the topics of the fashion right now. But at the same time, digital transformation is psychological, it's human.
Yeah.
So we need to be changing people's habits, really. So if I'm going to change my everyday activity, I need to know what's in it for me. Yeah. How I can benefit in the end. And finally, that is the principle of good governance also, that you actually running your state so that you could benefit your people. Yeah. All of the services that we have now are available in the classical formats as well. You still can go do everything on paper, however you feel more comfortable. It's just a lot of people see that the digital format is much more convenient for them. Right. And that was the case of declaring taxes, because it takes us really 3 minutes to submit it thanks to the pre-filled form. Yeah. And also one extra mechanism for the motivation was that if you declare your taxes digitally, you can expect the excess tax to be returned to you within days, 5 to 7 days, as in if you file on paper, which you still can, but possibly you would have to wait 6 months. Right. So this was the small habit changer that got people on board easily.
Right, okay, that's really interesting, and I want to touch on several of the points that you've mentioned. But let me just first clarify, when we talk about digitalization of public services, what exactly are we talking about? Is it digitalization of the front end? Is it straight through processing with full automation of the end-to-end process? How far has the digitalization gone?
Digital transformation is not converting to PDF documents. That's not what it is about. Yeah. So it is a different type of governance. And yes, Estonia was in a very fortunate situation in some sorts, because we could start from scratch, basically. Yep. So we redesigned the way how we approach public governance. We are the first e-cabinet in the world where there is paperless cabinet meetings in the parliament. Right. And everything is technologically empowered. We introduced electronic ID, and that was the prerequisite of all the digital services to follow. Single center, government-issued electronic ID that would help every time securely authenticate the person who is about to consume any type of service. So the question of how do you digitalize different services is that we need to start from the citizen point of view. And that has always been one principle in digital governance for Estonia, that you need to be citizen-centric. It has to be simple in terms of, yes, the user design and the process itself, but also think about the experience. How many clicks is really necessary? And then not just bringing the same actions that you would do on an analog format to a digital format, but to redesign the whole way of how do we approach, because there can be a lot of steps that could be skipped in digital filing of taxes, for example.
Right.
So just to have the digital alternative available is not converting PDFs, but making actually the different type of settings. But that also comes with legislation system, right? How do we protect the citizen data? What is the, how do we keep citizen data? Where it is being stored? How it is being exchanged, right? So all of these legal questions that we were in position to design from scratch. So it's not only just digitalizing different steps along the way that would make this service possible for you to consume as a citizen, but all of this network around how do we approach governance if it's when it's digitally empowered.
Well, that's remarkable, because you basically achieved what most private enterprises hope to achieve with their digital transformation programs, and very often fail, right? Now, I want to touch a little bit on the idea of digital exclusion. Now, you mentioned that all services are available both in analog form and in digital form. But I would assume that, based on what you're saying, and maybe I'm wrong, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a digital-first strategy. How have you managed to ensure that the people that perhaps don't feel so comfortable with digital technology don't feel that they're being left behind, or less attention is being put to the services that they still consume?
Very important question to address. And here I would like to point out that, yes, digital first, but also with the principle that let's try to make the use for the majority of the people, right? And then deal with the possible exceptions.
Right.
So there was not 0 point or 1 point game, right? So we saw that even if the solution is not 100% applicable to all people, okay, but perhaps 60% of people, 80% of people can find real value, and then we will work with the last percentage there. So that was never the obstacle for our decision makers to say that, no, we're not going to test the solution because it's not covering wholly the population. But few strategical steps that were done correctly in Estonia. You can't introduce digital tools, different digital services, and then just leave it up for people to figure it out. When you're launching them, this is also your responsibility as a government to really help the people get on board. And that is exactly the strategy that Estonia did. On one hand, we had a small budget back in the day, but we decided to invest a large proportion to our youth, to education. So there was a huge program that brought internet connection and computers to all the municipality schools, so that integration of digital skills could start from the primary level. So we decided that every new generation that we're going to raise would be tech savvy. If they are later adults, they have the choice. Either they want to do to engage with the government digitally or in an analog format, but at least they would have skills if they wanted to do in the online format. But also we know that there is always a portion of people who are like early adopters, so they will get quickly on board and they're really, really eager to try all of the things out. But now the majority of population need assistance. And this is how, in collaboration with public and private stakeholders, we started to offer a lot of courses, raising awareness among people, creating communication. We're launching electronic identity. We set up tents on the public squares, in the parks, on the streets saying that, this is how it was made compulsory, so people had to get electronic IDs. So that was a political decision. So now it was also the communication process, because if you have to get it, I need to understand what is it that I'm getting.
Yeah.
So talking about what electronic ID is, what it will enable you to do, how you can use it, and later different programs. How to use computer, what is internet, and how do you access it? Holding your mouse or typing on the keyboard, that was also a really essential skill that we needed to start teaching people. So big partners in this were the public libraries, who started to offer different set of courses for people, elderly or adult people, and also in the local municipality offices, and also the private sector came on board. That was the collective mission for the whole society to have these technological skills, digital skills that we need if we are going to pursue the digitalization route. So that was slowly, bit by bit, by introducing simple solutions to also help people through different courses that are still going on to this day.
Right. Okay. Now, one of the perhaps more distinguished features about the Nordics is the high trust that the citizenship has on their government institutions. So my question to you is, how has the E-Estonia project impacted trust between the state and the citizens?
I get this question a lot, and people ask, how do you blindly trust your government so much? What is it in Estonians that you trust? And I would say that we don't. We're really skeptical people. And I think that Estonians do not trust their government just blindly. But it is also, again, the responsibility of the government to show me that it can be trusted. We were under Soviet power for such a long time. We managed to regain independence, to become a republic. We have no desire in going back to this system. So we decided that we will adopt Western values, that we will be a democratic republic, that we will value a person's right and to be an independent citizen, right? And also through different mechanisms that it is rather easy with digitalization to achieve. So if there is a digital data being collected about me, or interoperability between different institutions that share my personal data, so there are logbooks, right? So Estonia decided to be transparent, to communicate that to the people. Also legislating, so we were GDPR compliant before GDPR was even thought about.
Right.
So we from the very beginning, we set in the legislation that the data belongs to the citizen, not to the government official, not to the database that is being held, but respective citizen owns their own data. So if I own something, I have the right to know how this data is being used. So these are the type of tools that the government provides me, like data tracker, where I can make queries, where I can see the different queries done to ask my data. In the patient portal, medical data, very sensitive, very important, right? Extensive logbook is available. Any citizen can enter and see how their medical data has been used, who has looked and for what reason. So these are the type of technological tools that you can give. When was the last time that you went to a hospital and said, well, I would like to be taken to the archive room because I would like to know how my data is being used, right? It's more complicated with the analog, and oftentimes you don't know who has looked your paper file, but of course Estonia, being pioneer in blockchain technology as well, that serves as a layer of verification.
Yeah.
We choose truth over trust. And that is exactly how we can make sure that none of the data hasn't been compromised or changed, or if it has, then we know exact point where it happened, so we can put a finger on it. So the advantage is that, well, possibly you can do malfunctions with digital data as well. Similarly, like you can manipulate the analog whatever process. Mm-hmm. But the difference is that in digital world, everything will leave a trace. You will not get away with the actions. And also during the different crises, the government has been very open in communication to the higher level. In 2007, Estonia suffered a cyber attack that was the first in its scale. So far, still the biggest cyber attack known against the nation state as a whole. That was a big situation that shook the world. This created a lot of a bit of because it was politically motivated, so it created a bit of scare in the society, like what's happening and are we going to collapse as a digital society? Mm-hmm. On one hand, good that it happened because it was like a maturity exam to us, so like a small proof that we took the correct route. We decided to build digital society in a decentralized manner, so it would be difficult to steal data, to steal identities, to hack different databases, and nothing was hacked in 2007 and hasn't been so far.
Okay.
So the type of communication in any crisis moment, even though it's difficult to do, the government has always had this approach that we will tell the people what's going on, and not hide any of the complications, because with technology you will have complications. That's kind of written in the system. You can't build a completely errorless environment.
I think what you just said is so profound, because you said we choose truth over trust, right? So that just indicates that this is not a blind trust in the institution, but it's a trust based on transparency and the trail that we can have thanks to digitalization. And I think that's a really important message to emphasize, because this is fact-based trust. Now, let's talk a little bit about something else that you touched on earlier, which is the mindset. You said digital transformation is a psychological process as well. And I'm sure any practitioner of digital transformation would say that the most difficult thing to change about an organization is the mindset. So how have you dealt with the mindset and with that behavioral change that needed to take place across the country, especially with, let's say, the people that were not so keen on adopting a digital state?
Communication. Talk to people. Really get your idea across. So it does not start with technology. It starts with leadership. Yeah. So you need to have leaders who would drive the transformation further, who will have clear ideas. And you don't need to have the answers to all of this, because as I mentioned, we approached as a startup. We have no idea where it's going to go. And if we fail, well, we pivot. We'll try a different solution. And definitely we had hardships along the way. In the early days when the electronic identity was made compulsory, of course, people mocked a lot this decision because they had no use case for it. Yeah. There were no electronic services that you could apply this. That was completely useless gadget that you had to have. And of course, it was rather expensive also back in the day. But with this persistency and with the long vision, I would say forward-looking vision from the political leadership, and this type of also collaborative understanding that we're going to take the digitalization route, and we see that we have a lot to win from it in the long haul. So that is always very complicated topic, because transformation will not happen overnight, and political leaders would like to have the benefits tomorrow, right? So they do one decision and you want this to be immediately successful.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this is one area where success will come in years, right? So communication is really the key. Why we're doing this, how you can start adopting it, how you will finally have value from it, and then applying the different courses. How do you help people build up the skills that are necessary, address their fears? People have a lot of fears. Yes, what if there is a big brother? What if the government is going to spy on me? What if the government is going to sell my data? These are all the fears that don't keep quiet about. Talk about them. Take away the fears. Show the trust, the transparency mechanisms that you that not just you talk as a principle, but how do you actually implement them? Like the different inquiries that I can see how my data is being used, or the practice, the good practice that the government is not going to sell my data. How I can be sure of that. And again, also not to talk about the beautiful pink talk, but also the reality that if different errors arise, communicate that as well, how we're going to overcome that, and what is the ongoing strategy. So there will always be people who either are skeptical, they don't have enough knowledge or skills to adopt any technology, or simply don't want to. And we shouldn't profile here that this is definitely the elderly population. Perhaps it's not. There are a lot of elders who use very rapidly the technological tools, or there are different services where you don't need any engagement or any skills at all, like the e-prescription is. All you need to have is your digital identity, and you buy the digital prescription from the pharmacy. So very simple process, and my grandmother has no idea that there are really complex IT systems behind it.
Right.
But right, the persistency to have the patience long enough until the people will see the benefits from the moment of adoption to actually when it will start to take off, and constant communication, and not to neglect people's fears. Address them. Tell them that yes, there needs to be a dialogue, and that their fears are relevant.
Okay. We've been talking a lot about the benefits to the citizens. Let's talk now about what are the benefits to companies that either have settled in Estonia or that would like to settle in Estonia. What can they expect, or how can they benefit from E-Estonia?
One program that we have launched after 99% of the population already had an electronic identity, and so we've covered almost all the population. So we were thinking, well, where do we expand now? So the logical answer was to expand to the rest of the world, and this is how the E-Residency program was launched. So anyone in the world older than 18 years can become Estonian E-resident, meaning that they will get access to the same electronic ecosystem that Estonian citizens and residents are using. A lot of the E-residents, more than 93,000 of them, have never set foot in Estonia, but are running remote businesses from wherever location that they are based, benefiting from electronic identity, digital signature, fast process of registering your business, hiring people, doing all the tax duties related to all of your operational activity. This is something that a lot of residents outside of European Union find very useful. We are aware we are a small country, 1.3 million people. Perhaps is not attractive end market, but being a part of European Union, you can be registered as a business owner in Estonia and do business with all European single market. So that is already attractive point of view.
Yeah.
Curiously enough, we see a lot of people from EU establishing their businesses also in Estonia via E-Residency program. And that is because it is faster, hassle-free, it is cheaper oftentimes for them, and they see that the benefit is enormous from them. So this government-issued electronic ID and all of the different e-services that is at their disposal is a very strong use case why there are a lot of e-residents and a lot of companies established by e-residents.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, I recently read that the record of setting up a company in Estonia is 14 minutes?
Yes, it's 15.5 minutes, and that was done by Estonian e-resident in the London Tech Week, yes, earlier in June. So this can be done, but he also told me in a conversation that he could have done it faster. It was just that there were some complications with the internet connection, but he was really confident that he could do it even faster. So just to illustrate, yes, it's not possibly the use case of every single business owner who's going to register, but it can be done.
Yeah.
It's a fast process. So we've always approached that. Of course, we are a small country. We don't have big industry. We don't have any big factories, or we are not manufacturer of any physical thing. So our industry is service and tech. So this is what we are always developing, that good public services, digital services, electronic identity, and reducing bureaucracy and red tape so that entrepreneurs could focus on what's important for them.
Right.
Running their own business and not justifying every single step to the government why they're doing something.
Okay, so then now let's talk about what's next, because you've laid out the digital, the foundation basically. You have the systems, you have the digital ID, and we see, of course, technology keeps progressing, and there's a whole bunch of new exponential technologies like artificial intelligence. So how is Estonia planning to use these exponential technologies? And maybe you can talk a little bit about AI-powered government.
Absolutely. After almost 30 years of building the digital society, we're not nearly done, and I don't know if we will ever reach to a point where we say that, okay, now Digital Estonia is done. Exactly, we need to always move forward with the development of technology. One thing that I mentioned that is really strongly in the government focus right now is the proactive services and live event-based services, so that the communication for the citizen would be even better, seamless, instant. So I wouldn't have to even engage in applying any of these processes, where a lot of the applications could be done semi-automatically or AI-powered. So right now, Estonia is teaching our own virtual assistant that is called Bureaucrat.
Right.
That would be one central assistant for all of the public sector, and why not private sector as well. So at any time a citizen has any problem or question, that virtual assistant could be one reference point. So I don't have to be a specialist in my government that now this is the type of government authority I need to turn to get assistance, or there is a massive feedback from the public sector that a big amount of time is being wasted by forwarding letters that have been sent wrong,
right,
because people don't know where to turn to. So again, if we can make something as simple as one chatbot, one virtual assistant, that is already guiding us forward. But of course, in the future, that AI technology could do a lot of processes for the person already, like application or reminding them of different like expiration date of your driving license, and then giving you a notification that, hey, I've applied for a new driving license for you because it's about to expire, right? So all of these different different processes that can be automized, and because they are predictable. We know that people will start school in the age of 7 in Estonia. We know that men need to go to the military, right? To the military service. Prior to that, they need to go to the doctor inspection. Right? We know that people will retire at one point. So these are the type of events that will take place in people's lives, majority of people's lives. So we can approach people proactively already. One thing of the proactive service that is available is getting the family benefits, because they are universal in Estonia. So if I'm entitled to get something, why do I need to ask for it? So now the government approaches me instead when my baby is born, saying, is this the correct bank account that you want to be your family benefits to be transferred? I confirm that yes, it's so, and I go back to what's important, taking care of my infant, and not proving different documentations, filing paperwork to receive something that I am entitled to. And AI that is being right now trained and developed even further would possibly take even more the proactive role, so that they could, so that the experience for the person in communication with the state could be a pleasant one, bureaucracy-free, actual nice process that you don't have to be overly worried about.
Yeah, and I love the name. I love the irony, the bureaucrat, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I think based on what you're saying, this is clearly a case study on how to execute a successful digital transformation, not just for the public sector. I think the private sector could learn a ton from it. We know that over 80% of digital transformation efforts fail in the private sector, right? So I think there's definitely a lot that can be learned from what Estonia has done. Just to close, tell us a little bit, what have been the main lessons that you've learned from being pioneers in running and setting up a digital state?
Leadership, definitely. It needs to start from good, forward-looking leadership. You don't need to have all the answers ready. You just need to have the courage to pursue the road and to be able to communicate to people that what is the transformation that is about to happen. Right. Keep it simple. All of the both solutions that you're about to implement, any digital services, they need to be simple, understandable. I don't need to have programming skills to declare my taxes online, right? And also the user experience, the interface, similar between the different public sectors. For example, my login process using the government-issued electronic ID, central ID to access all the public services, and so efficient that it is being expanded to the private sector as well. Banks, telcos, e-commerce. These are all the different product and service providers that use the government-issued electronic ID as well as their login and their service process as well. So it can be implemented in both. It's not limited to the public sector only. Yeah. But also keep it simple in terms of laws. Don't over-regulate. Have the clear legislation frame with very clear areas of responsibility. Also keeping in mind all of the security. Estonia is very reluctant in doing any shortcuts in terms of data protection or identity protection. But don't overcomplicate if there's no need to. So think about the essence of all of the process of what the regulations should regulate. But also definitely shared platforms are quicker. This is what we see. Interoperability instead of duplication, instead of every corner of the government building something for their own. Let's share the data. Let's make it interoperable. Let's bring the citizen data together to talk to each other. Like all of the aspects of my life to be in contact with my electronic identity.
Yeah.
And collaboration between public and private stakeholders. Yes, the government in Estonian case is the runner for the digital transformation. It came as a political decision, but the partnership with private companies has been essential in every step of the way. And I think that is one key factors for our success. If we had let the digital transformation to be built, all of these solutions to be built by the public sector, we possibly would not be in a so digital state right now. So the demand coming very clearly from the public sector, but the know-how, the technological solutions that can come from the specialists that are in the private companies. And this collaboration, this partnership has been really working for Estonia really well and creating the synergy between the government sector and the private sector as well.
Absolutely fascinating. Erika, thank you so much for taking time to share this incredible journey that Estonia has been on.
Thank you so much for taking the interest in E-Estonia.